Tonight, key government business in Parliament in limbo after Speaker of the Parliament adjourned the House indefinitely following the political stalemate over the declaration of some seats vacant.
Having regard to the public interest and the exigencies of the state of affairs in the country. Honourable members, I have consulted leadership and I am exercising my discretion to decide to suspend the meeting of the House indefinitely. The House is accordingly adjourned sine die.
Plus, both the MPP and the NDC still insist they are majority in Parliament.
It is a notorious fact that we remain the majority caucus of this Parliament.
The NDC members of Parliament are in the majority in Ghana's Parliament. We've made our position and it's so clear.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and holding insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Tonight, some key government business have been left in limbo after Speaker of Parliament took the decision to indefinitely adjourn Parliament with a political crisis over the declaration of some 4 seats vacant, as we know, still raging. Aban Babing acknowledged the ruling of the Supreme Court, which stayed his declaration, which has since been served on him, but said the House lacked a quorum to take decisions and suspended the House indefinitely. We will get into the Speaker's ruling shortly, but first, though, parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante was in the House and joins us with the drama that unfolded all day. Let's start from the very early morning when the whips were already trying to access the chamber.
Well, yes, Evans, the majority chief whip, Frank Anodompreh, did try to access the chamber as early as 5 a.m. and he was allowed inside. And that was ordinarily contrary to a message that had been put out by the Marshal to Parliament that the chamber will only be opened at 8 a.m. But he did get inside. Up until about 8 a.m. when military men who had been contracted by the Speaker of Parliament and Parliament as an institution came there to sweep, he was inside. So these soldiers then came in with dogs, sniff dogs, and to check the precincts of Parliament because the Speaker had written through a deputy clerk asking for these persons to come and check that the place was safe. And that was done. And that was the time that Frank Anodompreh was asked to come out. And so at that point, both of them, together with his colleague, Minority Chief Whip Kwame Agboja, and other NDC MPs were all standing outside and they were trading accusations at each other as the media tried to speak with them, accusing each other of trying to take undue advantage of the situation to go in there and get into the chamber. It was up until 8 a.m. when these MPs then formed the queue and entered the chamber. When they did, the NPP MPs went in there first, led by Frank Anodompreh. They took the majority side of the House. And because the NDC MPs were in their numbers, numbering about 40, they overran them and took over the majority side.
But it appeared that the NDC MPs went in first. They came to Parliament in their numbers pretty early.
Yes. In fact, when the NDC MPs came there, Frank Anodompreh had already been allowed to access the chamber. And then he had come out with Habib Idrisu and 2 other deputy ministers who were standing right at the entrance of the MPs, at the MPs' entrance to the chamber. So when it was 8 o'clock and they had to go in there, they went in there first. And in fact, Habib Idrisu went to sit on the chair ordinarily reserved for Alexander Afenyo-Markin as majority leader. And then the NDC MPs went to the other side, dragged Atoforsen's minority leader's seat to the majority side and asked him to sit on it. And then they populated the rest of the majority side. Up until Alexander Afenyo-Markin came in there almost 9 o'clock, talked to his leadership, and then they agreed that, listen, these NDC MPs were not willing to actually give in to them to take over that side of the House. And so, in the interest of peace, in the words of Alexander Afenyo-Markin, they considered themselves majority, but they wanted the Speaker to do so. So, this is Alexander Afenyo-Markin trying to, after convincing his colleagues to leave the chamber, explaining why he left.
We know there are innocent people out there, innocent Ghanaians going about their business, innocent Ghanaians in the academia, innocent Ghanaians who are struggling to get 3 square meals on the table for their families. We care about them. We understand that there is politics, but we must do it in a civil manner. We believe that the appropriate thing is to quietly yield to them and wait upon Mr. Speaker. After all, the ruling was directed at Parliament and the Speaker, not an individual MP. Yesterday, the bailiff of the Supreme Court served Parliament of Ghana through the legal directorate. The director of the legal department received the ruling of the court. So, in other words, Mr. Speaker is on constructive notice, or maybe I should say actual notice of the ruling of the court. We have to leave it there and respect Mr. Speaker. Mr. has been part of democracy since 1992. He's a senior lawyer. He's practiced in our court. And I believe that even if Mr. Speaker disagrees with the Supreme Court, he knows what to do. Suffice to state, at the risk of being repetitive, that we were not disrespectful of the chair. When the Speaker made his pronouncement and the majority caucus disagreed with Mr. Speaker, we didn't cause commotion here. We left quietly and told Mr. Speaker that the right place to express those grievances will be at the court. So we expect our brothers and our sisters on the NDC minority side to do the needful. But all would be for Mr. Speaker to make a final determination. The nation is looking up to Mr. Speaker. All his years in politics, this is a crucial moment for him to add weight to what we have done to preserve the peace. MPP is for peace. MPP is for peace. MPP is for peace of Ghana. We will not allow anybody to disturb the peace of the country. It is a notorious fact that we remain the majority caucus of this parliament.
And there was a lot riding on what the Speaker was going to say. And then he took his seat. Apparently, now that we are learning, we'll get a bit more from Afenyo Markin pretty shortly. What happened when he met the Speaker privately? Some deal was struck.
Yeah. So when the Speaker of Parliament took his seat, prior to that, he had met both leaders the leaders on both sides, both the minority and majority leaders, to try and come to some sort of agreement. And that meeting lasted close to 20-30 minutes. That is very long, considering how very short pre-sitting meetings usually are. And so when that meeting concluded, Alexander Afenyo Markin walked through the chamber, but he did not take any seat. He walked out and left. And then Councillor Tofosin took over again. On that seat, same seat he has been sitting, the majority leader seat. He sat there for a while, and then the Speaker of Parliament himself walked in. They did the normal formalities, and then he zoomed right into business, where he spoke about the fact that the Supreme Court judgment and the order has since been served on him. But then he pivoted to talk about why he believed the House lacked quorum to take decisions, and for which reason he has agreed with leadership, and he has exercised his decisions to actually now adjourn Parliament indefinitely.
We're going to play you a longer version of this because you needed to appreciate the full context of what he says, because everything was riding on his words.
As you may recall, on Thursday, I informed the House, pursuant to Standing Order 18 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, on the occurrence of vacancies in the House in relation to 4 honorable members. Yesterday, I received a process from the Supreme Court, which is a ruling from the Supreme Court pursuant to an ex parte application directing Parliament to recognize and allow the 4 affected members of Parliament to duly represent their constituents and conduct full scope of duties of their offices as members of Parliament, pending a final determination of a suit filed by Honorable Alexander Afenyo Markin. By Article 102 of the Constitution, 1992, and Order 64.1 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, I note that we currently have a quorum to transact business, but not to take decisions. I want to read the said Article 102 of the Constitution. It reads, "The quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. As presently constituted, the numbers definitely is far above 1/3 of the members of Parliament. By Article 104, the numbers are not sufficient for us to take decisions. And I'll quote Article 104. Article 104.1 says, "Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present." Honorable members, we don't have at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Consequently, in view of the current circumstances, the fact that there is a question on the composition and constitution of Parliament, and having regard to the public interest and the exigencies of the state of affairs in Parliament, I will proceed to, in accordance with Standing Orders 59, adjourn the House indefinitely. That is sine die. I want to quote Standing Orders 59.1. It says, "The Speaker may, in consultation with leadership, suspend a meeting of the House indefinitely or for a period determined by the Speaker, having regard to the public interest and the exigencies of the state of affairs in the country." Honorable members, I have consulted leadership and I am exercising my discretion to decide to suspend the meeting of the House indefinitely. The House is accordingly adjourned sine die.
So this is how this ended. And while all this was happening, the NPP side were not in the chamber. They had left long ago.
Yes.
Did this clarify this very contentious issue of which side is the majority in the House?
The expectation was that once the Speaker of Parliament acknowledged that he has been served with that ruling of the Supreme Court staying his order, and that ruling was to the effect that those 4 MPs should be allowed to do their job, and that would mean that Alexander Afenyo-Markin goes back to becoming the majority leader because the NPP caucus would then have 138. There was expectation that it will get to the point where there will be the acknowledgement of that fact. But shortly afterwards, when the Speaker adjourned and the MP started getting out, Minority Leader Dr. Kesirato Forset insisted that his side are still in the majority.
He called the leadership of both sides.
We want to make something very clear. The NDC members of Parliament are in the majority in Ghana's Parliament. We've made our position and it's so clear. We are not changing our positions. We see ourselves as the majority. We are fortified by the Constitution and the standing orders of this House, and we see ourselves as the majority. We are grateful to the Right Honourable Speaker for doing what is right, and we respect his decision. We hope that the time will come that this House will be recalled and will take our position as the majority caucus. Thank you very much.
Well, we're learning a bit more about what really transpired when the leaders met with the Speaker in caucus, in that chamber, just the leadership and the speaker. There's a lot that happened there. The Majority Leader now, Alexa Nathaniel Marking, has been giving us a bit more about what happened. He says the Speaker acknowledged him as the Majority Leader, but also assured them both of his next actions, including broader consultations, which really is the reason why the Parliament has been adjourned indefinitely. He did not clarify when he anticipates that he will finish his consultations, but Alexa Nathaniel Marking gave us these exclusive details. Listen.
So at the pre-sitting meeting, he called the leadership of both sides. The majority leader, he addressed me as such when we were at the pre-sitting, addressed the NDC leader as minority leader, and he put 3 issues before us. Issue number 1 was that as a result of his pronouncement last Thursday, knowing also that there was an issue that I had filed at the Supreme Court, he is acknowledging to us that the Supreme Court has served him with a ruling, and that he is going to announce the ruling to the House when we sit. Second, he also informed us that as a result of that information he's going to give, there will be the need for us to engage as a House. And thirdly, he said that he is aware that our colleagues on the other side have taken our seat, and that sitting, this one for emphasis, sitting in the chamber and arrangement there too is not his responsibility, is that of the clerk to Parliament. I repeat, Mr. Speaker said he is aware of the sitting in Parliament. That is, our colleagues haven't taken our seat. But that is not his responsibility. That is the responsibility of the clerks, the clerk to Parliament. Okay. Then I came in to draw his attention that then he would have to speak to them to move before. Then our colleagues on the other side, led by Dr. Forson, said, well, they are sitting there because of his earlier pronouncement. Until he makes a further pronouncement, they will not move. I engaged the clerk, and the clerk said that he did not remove my name tag from my seat, and that administratively they acknowledged that the NDC MPP side is a majority, and so they didn't move our seat. So I reiterated to Mr. Speaker that to avoid a needless confrontation, because these are our friends. Ato and I share the same esprit de corps. Ami Abuja and I, we are friends. Ama Kofibwa is our senior brother. I mean, I cannot foresee a confrontation, all because of this constitutional lacuna of a sort. Therefore, I respectfully told Mr. Speaker that our side will yield the chamber to them for them to make, for him to make his pronouncement. And I thanked him respectfully, bowed, and then left.
Let's get the side of the NDC now. I want to bring in Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekbo as MP for Sadai. He was on his feet today, seated on the majority side of the chamber today, and he joins us on the line right now. Roxanne, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. The Speaker of Parliament today acknowledged that he has been served with the Supreme Court's ruling that stayed his declaration of the vacancy of these 4 seats. This places beyond doubt the issue of who is majority and minority, and that family, your side is back to being the minority.
Speaker did not say that. Speaker only said that he has received a process from the Supreme Court. Now, let's get to what transpired on the floor. When Speaker arrived, the matters that the Honorable Nathaniel Marking spoke to as having taking place in conclave with the Speaker, I am not privy to, so I am not able to confirm or deny. But let me speak to the matters as I witnessed them. The Speaker made the point Indeed, let me ask you, if the Speaker were simply to have acknowledged that I have received I've been served with the ruling of the Supreme Court, and therefore I am obligated to abide by it, Speaker would have said so expressly.
No, but if he says he was served, if served, he's served. It's binding on him.
Let me respond, please. Let's address the issues. I am saying that what Speaker did is not an acknowledgement of the fact that he is abiding by the decision. Speaker said something very instructive. He said the House lacked the decisional quorum. We had commencement quorum, but the decisional quorum, we could not proceed. Now, what was this decisional quorum? And if we had proceeded, we would have taken some decision. For instance, we were going to move that committees be reconstituted as the majority side. For instance, we were going to move that pursuant to the decision of the House last Thursday, the NDC now has the power under the Constitution to nominate a candidate for an election as the second deputy speaker. But those decisions couldn't be reached because we lacked the decisional quorum. These were the businesses that we intended to have conducted today. Because there were matters on the order paper that the House could have proceeded with without necessarily reaching a decision. We could have dealt with certain businesses that were hanging. For instance, laying of papers. There were a lot of bills that government had brought to the House that could have been laid. So those ones, they were not parliamentary proceedings that needed any decision to be taken on. They were just laying of papers and Speaker simply referring them to the appropriate committees.
To the decision that was served on, to the Supreme Court's decision that was served on him. What decision was served on him that he acknowledged?
I didn't hear the Speaker say so. He said he received a process from the Supreme Court.
What process? What process did he receive?
Sorry?
What process from the Supreme Court did he receive?
A process from the Supreme Court could be the writ that was served, that was issued by Impending.
He talks about the ruling of the Supreme Court.
Very well.
The ruling of the Supreme Court.
Hold on.
There's only one ruling of the Supreme Court that we know of in this particular matter that says stay your hand. In fact, he went specific beyond just saying the ruling and says that ruling says you have to stay and allow the MPs to take their seats until the matter is determined. He told us all that.
Well, if that is what the Speaker says, then I am at a loss as to how a further consultation on this matter is necessary. The Speaker said something he did something very, very instructive. And that was that the House was adjourned with the NDC sitting on the side of the majority without any qualms.
Yes.
He took parliamentary notice of that. There was no resistance. They didn't order the NDC to go back. So I am telling you, this matter is not ended. It's far from the ending because Parliament is subject to the Constitution. The Supreme Court is subject to the Constitution. The Executive is subject to the Constitution.
But you concede as a lawyer that once he has acknowledged receipt of that ruling, he's read out the details of that, he is bound to respect that. And if the ruling, as he himself told us, is that he stays his hand and allows the MPs who he said had vacated their seats to take the seats and represent their constituents, the status quo ante remains now.
Evans, how do you expect Speaker to abide by a Supreme Court ruling that was erroneously reached by an ex parte application ad infinitum, when indeed the law is settled that any order granted by an ex parte application need not exceed 9 days or 10 days?
Well, that's a matter, I guess, for the courts to decide. But as he speaks right now, it has been served on him.
That is not a matter. That is the law.
Well, you disagree with the Supreme Court's decision. You have to challenge it in the appropriate forum, and the forum is not in Parliament.
So I am certain the appropriate processes has been initiated. But
clarify that.
That as it is yesterday, I believe so. When we engaged, I told you that the most politically sound and legally reasonable decision to be reached today will be to shut down Parliament. Because to take any further step will be in breach, in the supposed breach of the Supreme Court decision.
Quick clarity. You suggest that the processes have now been filed.
So in effect, it is the Supreme Court that has shut down Parliament.
Okay. You just mentioned, and I just wanted to clarify, that the processes may have been filed to challenge this in the appropriate forum. Are you indicating that there's some process underway or been filed or have been filed to seek a review or stop the Supreme Court?
I speak to the fact that contained in the ruling of the court, there's some directions have been giving some timelines. Yeah, so I know that once the time is ticking, the days are counting, some steps may have been taken in compliance of that.
Okay, thankfully Habib Idris, who is the first Deputy Majority Whip, also joins me right now. Habib, thanks for your time here on Top Story. And very quickly on the subject of minority majority, I've just heard Afenyo Marking say in this particular meeting, the Speaker of Parliament addresses him as the Majority Leader. On your side, this is a matter that is settled?
Yes, what the Majority Leader said is true, but it was even more than that. When the leadership met the Speaker, the leadership of both sides, both leaders were there, including Honorable Kennedy Ohina Japan. We met the Speaker at conclave. And when the Speaker told us that he has been duly served, and for that matter, he is unable to proceed with what actually is going on. So for that matter, he wants to adjourn the House CNDA for us to come down. Then the issue was now who sits on his right and who sits on his left. The Speaker did indicated that he has not given any directives apart from whatever say. The Majority Leader, Afenyo Markins, told him that when we came this morning, our names tags and we were still seated on the right side of his, and then later on the minority, the NDC caucus, they came in, they pulled the minority leadership table to come and bring it in front of that of the majority caucus. There I moved the Majority Leader black seat and sit close to Atu Forces. So there was that banter of who sits in his right and who sits on the left. So the NDC leadership was of the view that for them, the ruling that the Speaker did made them majority, and for that matter, they want to sit on the right. The Speaker said he hasn't made that ruling that they should sit on the right, and the arrangement of seats in Parliament is done by the Clerk of Parliament, and the Clerk of Parliament has not rearranged our sitting to make the NDC to come and sit on the right or sit on the left. So as to who sits where is the decision of the clerk at table, because they look at the numbers and make the arrangement. And if the clerk haven't been able to do that change, it means I stay.
But to the bigger point, yes, so and we had Afenyo Marking.
Evans, let me clarify. That was part of the reason we said that if the minority will not leave the right-hand side of the Speaker, we will go into our office and listen to him, because at conclave we have already discussed that he's just coming in and to read his communication and acknowledge receipt of the court order and adjourn. And
indefinitely. So and that is a bigger point now. Now the House has been adjourned indefinitely. Now the Speaker did not give us an indication what may trigger a recall of the House. Normally, you would know if you're on a recess. You know that definitely that is is not indefinite necessarily, because you will return from recess. Now we don't know. We don't know if the Supreme Court decision on a substantive matter will trigger a recall, or whether, as we're now hearing, a consultation may. Do you have clarity on what will trigger a recall?
Exactly. The Speaker, what he told us as leadership on conclave was that based on what actually is going on, the diplomatic corps, the international community, civil service organization, all have interest. And he has been served with the court process that shows that the 4 members of Parliament should be reinstated. And he wants us to cool down for him to also do some consultation. And if you look at our standing orders, based on the standing orders the Speaker quoted, he can actually recall Parliament without necessarily it being triggered. Or if otherwise we think that all heads are cool, we just need 41 members of Parliament to trigger a recall to Parliament. For if we have 41 members of Parliament, 15% or so signing to say that Parliament should be recalled, then it can be recalled on that basis.
I heard Afenyo Marking made the point, I think you just repeated it, that you will give the speaker the room to consult.
That was what he said.
And I get the sense that the main determinant of when the parliament is recalled is the conclusion of these consultations, and not necessarily a decision by the Supreme Court on the substantive matter.
But you see, the speaker was unable to proceed because there is a decision or which his decision was stayed. He acknowledged it. And when he was in the chamber reading his statement, he said that, and I have a copy of his statement, he said that yesterday I received a process from the Supreme Court, which a ruling from the Supreme Court pursuant to an ex parte application directing Parliament to recognize and allow the 4 affected members of Parliament to duly represent their constituents and conduct full scope of their duties of the office of a member of Parliament, pending final determination of the suite, led by Honourable Afenyo Markins. So the Speaker in this, that is paragraph 2 on his official statement that he communicated to Parliament, is to the effect that yes, these 4 members of Parliament, the Supreme Court have said that they should be reinstated, where he earlier on said that they should not be reinstated. And so for that matter, he's unable to continue. Unable to continue in the sense that these members are members of Parliament. And because of the controversy, even this morning, the general sense was as if we were coming there to have blows, to punch each other in the face or in the nose or something. But that didn't happen. So we agree as leadership conclave that yes, he's at the agenda house Sinidie. It is not as a result of anybody doing minority trying to come and say that they are majority or what. We agree on these issues and what the speaker was supposed to say before we came into the chamber.
Yeah, so adjourn indefinitely. But what, and I just want to clarify, this is important. What will determine when this indefinite recall ends and a recall an indefinite adjournment ends and a recall happens? Is it the conclusion of the consultations or the determination of the substantive matter by the Supreme Court? What's your understanding in conclusion?
Number one, based on the engagement leadership have with the speaker, is for the consultation. That is number one, because he needs to consult people. I asked him, in fact, at conclave, I asked him, Mr. Speaker, when exactly do you think that we'll reconvene? Based on, then he mentioned, which I can't mention on air, the number of people he wants to engage. We know who he's going to talk to. We know who he's going to engage. So he told me that, he told us that based on my question, when he's done with the consultation, leadership will be carried along and we can reconvene. And when we are also satisfied that the people he has mentioned to us he's going to consult, when he is done, we engage him and we can trigger a recall. Okay,
so you'll give him latitude, but if it delays inordinately, you're saying you will then use the constitutional trigger to force him to recall the House.
Yes, to recall the House, but not to force him.
No, of course. I mean, that clause, once you get your 41 members and you get it signed, he has no choice in the matter. That's forcing him.
Yeah.
That's compelling him.
And then to also make the point that the Speaker have not ruled in anywhere saying that the NDC were majority. Number two, the Speaker did not say they should sit on his right-hand side, which will indicate that they are majority. The clerk at table did not change any name sitting and other things to say that the NDC should sit on the right. It was their own making. They came in with a mentality of fighting or a mentality of confrontation, a mentality of distraction. But when we realized that, we told the Speaker that, especially when he told us he wanted to adjourn the House Senate day, and there was this fight about who sits on the right and other things. Then we said that, oh, no problem. If they want to sit on the right, the clerk at table never said they were to sit on the right. You, the Speaker, you never said they were to sit at the right. We will go and sit in our offices, and then you can go in and read your statement and then adjourn the House. And then we agreed. So we left the chamber from the conclave, the Speaker conclave in the chamber, and we walked back to our office.
I mean, but Habib, you have 46 days to elections. Government business will suffer in the interim because now nobody knows when exactly Parliament is going to be recalled. That is a significant blow to your side because obviously you bring a government business to the House for consideration.
But Evans, the NDC have always have this mentality of frustrating government business from day one. Their intention is to make sure that Ghanaian workers' salaries are not paid because after the appropriation on account that the minister responsible for finance would have been able to bring to the House was to the effect that salaries could be paid whilst we go for general election, of which after the election, when the new government is properly constituted, then the proper budget can be presented. If that is not done, I don't think that we have lost anything. After 7th of December, the parliament, this 8th parliament still have life until the 7th of January 2025. So after the 7th of December, whatever we still want to do after the election, we can come back and do it. I don't think that there's, or if the consultation is done earlier than we think, we can come back, because we just agree for this, for tempest to come down, for speaker consultation to be done, and so that we'll be able to know that maybe he did not request of leadership, and you could even realize.
And just for clarity, I may have heard you suggest that you don't mind losing on the time until the elections, if that is what it takes to have cool heads and to maintain the peace in this country, in terms of government business in the House.
What we are positive about is that whatever is urgent about government business to be done, it will be done after the consultation is done. And definitely, we, like I said, not everything as a leader I can disclose on air, but I can tell you that sooner or later, the consultation, when it is done and when the dust is settled, we will all come back. The most important thing is that the Speaker has acknowledged the receipt of it. The directive was captured in his statement. The 4 members of Parliament been restated. We are 138. The NDC are 137. And when we reconstitute, and like I said, when you listen to the statement of the NDC the last time, you don't even have a number to take a decision in the House. 138, you don't have it. We have it. And we can do business in the House without them. But because of the fact that they want to cause a lot of tension in the system, they want to project, to let it look like they can do something. You cannot even.
And very finally, I'm just learning that it's possible that you've already started collecting signatures to trigger the constitutional clause that will compel the Speaker to recall Parliament. True?
That is not true. All the 2 recalls that we have done, as a first deputy whip, that is my job. My chief whip normally puts those jobs in my hand. I call the members of Parliament, I draft the memo, I get the signatures, and I haven't done such a thing. And my chief whip have not directed me, or my majority leader have not indicated to me that I should trigger a recall.
Roxanne, that family, a fair point there. That this obviously will have to be. We'll have to wait until the speaker consultation is done.
No. Let me say this. I also have it on authority that they've begun collecting signatures. Look, Evan, these are colleagues who they look. I hesitate to say this, but they don't like to be candid. Let me. Habib just said that the speaker didn't say anything regarding the fact that who is the minority or majority with his pronouncement on Thursday. But they went to court. Let me refer you to the ex parte process filed on Friday at 12:40 before the Supreme Court registry. Look at paragraph 8, subparagraph 4, supporting the affidavit, the affidavit in support of the application. It reads that the balance of convenience will tilt against the plaintiff applicant and the new patriotic party, the party in government, as the minority party takes over as majority party to Parliament. This will thwart government business, and by so doing, make the country economically difficult in order to make the government of the day unpopular in an election year to score political points. Attached here too, and marked as Exhibit C, is the weekly business agenda of Parliament for the week ending 18th of October 2024. And because of this ruling of the Speaker, the remaining business of Thursday, the 17th of October 2024, was held in abeyance, and all other business of government in Parliament is held on hold. Also attached here to a marked as Exhibit D is the order paper of Parliament showing schedule of business of Parliament which have been halted as a result of this ruling by the Speaker of Parliament. So who went to court to say that the minority has become majority? Is it not you? Is it not you, the applicant? And therefore you were asking the court to have that reversed? So why do you come on radio and say that you haven't gone to anywhere to say that the speaker, as a result of his pronouncement, the NDC are now in majority? This is the affidavit that you swore to before the Supreme Court. So what you went to court to do was pure politics. Having balance of power tilted back to you.
My good friend Roxanne, we were talking about the implication of the speaker ruling, of which that ruling doesn't stay. The ruling has been stayed. And I'm saying that if that was the case,
Habib, just give him a few minutes to wrap up. In fact, I just have a couple of minutes to do this. Yes, Roxanne.
Then again, Habib made the point that this concern of coming to the media with matters that or discussions that were held with speaker in camera is unhealthy, because I wasn't there. I'm not part of leadership. But if you keep disclosing matters that you had discussion with speaker in camera, then I'll be minded to say that they are not truthful, because I can say that some of the things you are saying, I don't think that the speaker would have said those things in camera. So don't come to public and be saying things, the discussions that you had with speaker in his chambers. That is one. The other matter that I want to conclude on is that this matter, all right, speaker today was called upon because NDC, we did not command our full numbers. We couldn't command the 137 because a lot of our members were not around. It is not because we lacked the 138 as he said.
And how did the speaker know that?
Sorry?
How did the speaker know that he didn't have the numbers?
When speaker was making submissions, didn't you hear him say that the table office had confirmed that we did not have the decisional quorum? We took attendance. They knew exactly how many of us were in the chamber. So it was not based on any number on record before. Speaker was speaking to the fact that those members of parliament in the chamber were not up to the decisional quorum, which is a requirement of the constitution. So it is not about the fact that speaker is, look, let's be sober, all of us. Otherwise, this gridlock won't end.
Okay. Roxanne Nelson, but thank you very much. Habib Idris is the first deputy majority whip. He denies categorically that there are moves already on the way to collect signatures to compel the speaker to recall parliament. Although today the speaker had adjourned the house indefinitely. Now, talking about the business of parliament, though, there are some significant business before the house that they will be affected, and you may have heard in this interview with Habib Idris, who is the first deputy majority chief whip, that if it takes waiting until after the elections so that we can have peace, they don't mind doing so. But the suggestion is that they also reserve that recourse to the constitutional provision that would get signatures to compel the speaker to recall the house. My parliamentary correspondent joins me on this in this developing story. And quickly, there are a few things that the house was scheduled to deal with.
Yes.
What are these? Because they will be affected.
So there are up to about 20 bills at various stages. In fact, new bills that were said to be laid. And as for bills, the new government that will come in 2025 can always take it up. But there are a few of them that are crucial. The first, the approval of a budget for the first quarter of 2025 has still not been read, and normally would have been done in the first week of this November and approved before the House would take a break. That has still not been done. So key, if that is not taken, we risk a government shutdown from 1st January 2025. There's also the matter of the LI revoking mining in forest reserves. You will recall that the president promised organized labor that LI will be revoked as soon as Parliament reconvened. Parliament has been sitting for 1 week now since it resumed last week, and that LI has not been revoked. That was key. There's also the matter of an approval of $250 million Ghana Financial Stability Fund. That is also on hold. That has not been approved. And then $350 million worth of tax waivers. The tax waivers matter that will simply not go away. It's still there. It has not been taken. And then finally, the approval of 2 Supreme Court nominees, 2 persons that President appointed, because 2 Supreme Court judges will be retiring in November. The President was looking forward to fill that vacancy with these 2 new persons, and those 2 persons are also still in abeyance. The Parliament of Ghana is yet to take action on this. So these are the key business that are clearly in the air, with the government struggling to get them through, Evans.
Thank you very much.